Let's get this party started. I am here with Navy goalie, two-time goalie of the year, MLL goalie of the year as well. It's Mickey Jarboe. Mickey, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Damon. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been looking forward to this for quite a while. I'm glad we can make it happen. I typically ask goalies, do you remember way back at the very beginning, that first experience in goal?
I sure do. Yeah. I remember I was playing with, it was Lutherville Timonium Lacrosse, and I started out as a midi, and I was halfway decent, but the coach was like, "Hey, goalie's not coming today. Who wants to hop in there?" And I'm like, everybody's looking around, nobody's raising their hand. I'm like, I'll try it, and so yeah, played the whole game. I think we were playing either Perry Hall or Parkville. I forget which, but it's on the other side of Baltimore. And yeah, hopped in there and played the full game. Had a decent enough game. Enjoyed it. And then after that, the coach was like, "Hey, I think you could be a pretty decent goalie. Why don't you?" The other goalie's obviously going to come back, but why don't you guys just split halves for this season and then see where it takes us? So I did that for definitely that season, and I'm pretty sure the following season I was probably 8 or 9, and
Mm.
and then finally I was kind of hooked, and the coach was like, "Hey, I think you should focus on goalie from here on out." I'm like, "Okay."
Yeah. What was it that hooked you? Like what's kind of, when you first started out and even now in your college experience, like what is it about being a lacrosse goalie that you love so much?
Um, I mean, that's a tough question, but it's just that feeling you get when you're back there. I mean, the cliche is you're the last line of defense, and I definitely got that itch that first time, and then from here on out, I love being that last line and you know seeing those hard shots and making a good save and kind of the pressure that comes with that. So I would say definitely that piece is kind of what gravitated me toward it, and still to this day kind of keeps me into it. Actually, I'm playing. I got roped into it. My buddy Eddie McKinnon from Navy a couple weeks ago. He's like, "Dude, we need a goalie for the Ocean City tournament." I'm like,
Nice.
"Man, it's been a couple years." So I was like, "You know what? Let me do it. Let me do it." So
Yeah, well, you got some experience coming out of retirement. We'll get to that. We'll get to that a little bit later, huh? But
sure.
yeah, were you one of those goalies where that was like not afraid of the ball, like one, or were many youth goalies like right when they're starting out, have this natural like flinch reaction, like a natural hitch, because it's just not a natural thing to get in front of those projectiles and not be scared. But I'm curious, when you first jumped in, what were some of the challenges that you encountered?
Yeah, I think because I went into I basically I had never had any experience in the goal that first time, and the coach is just basically warming me up and just playing catch with me. He's like, just catch it like you would catch the normal ball. And so I never even thought about the ball hitting me. I was just like, just catch it. Um, it probably wasn't until I really focused on the position that and got hit a couple times that I was like, oh geez, like that kind of stings or that hurts. And so I remember like a couple times, maybe like sixth or seventh grade, where I got a case of the flinches, and uh, but slowly but surely just worked myself out of that. But I think it was just the progression that I really knew nothing about the position, and then kind of came into it. So I would say initially not scared of the ball at all, and then a couple years later, a couple times had that, but slowly grew out of that.
Yeah, just with reps.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
And just kind of sucking it up.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I tell kids. I mean, nowadays I tell them to get padded up because
Yeah.
I'm sure, you I think are a year or two older than me. But nowadays there's nothing wrong with throwing on some pads, especially during practice. So that will help you
Right.
overcome that fear. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
Um, I think that's a good tactic for sure. But also I think seeing those young guys and almost like if the guy really wants to be goalie, but he's still scared of the ball, you're like, okay, not sure if I can help you with that, your fear of the ball, except just saying it only hurts for a second. Um, but I think you kind of have to, like, once you get to later in probably middle school and definitely high school, you have to kind of feel out the guys and see who are those guys who just really have no fear, or at
Hmm.
least show no fear on the exterior, and just because you're going to get hit with the ball. It's just every game you're going to get hit with the ball, so you just gotta um, um, practice and I mean
Get used to it.
get some
Yeah,
tough guys in there. Yeah,
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 that's what I tell some folks or some kids every once in a while. I don't like to say it because I'm a huge goalie fan, and I think like if you can fight through that and learn, you learn so much. Just not only about like the sport, just about life. But sometimes you got to say that, hey, this position's not for you.
right,
Unfortunately.
100%. Yeah, I mean that will that will help them later in life, in the business world, all that stuff.
Yeah. So you grew up like in the Baltimore area. I imagine pretty lots of lacrosse. I
Yep.
imagine you got some good coaching, or there was at least some good goalies that you were able to watch and learn from. Is that the case?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, yeah, the that coach who put me in there is I consider him a legend, Spook Hillgartner. He's got three sons. One is the head coach at McDonough right now, who's they're number one in the MIA right now. But he was my first goalie coach, and instilled proper technique from a young age. I still remember it: step to the mark on the ball side. He did like the three marks, one straight up the center and then two on the 45s. And he's like, it's very easy. Wherever the ball is, you step to that mark. Um, and so that kind of gave me a good strong base of technique to build upon. Um, so Spook is definitely my first coach and one that I revere highly. And then going through high school, I got linked up with Charlie Toomey a bunch. I went to all his camps and learned a ton from him and all the goalies that he brought in to teach. So yeah, a lot of guys that helped me out along the way for sure.
Yeah. What were some of the lessons that you learned at his camps? Was it specific things like technique, like, oh, maybe I should, attack the ball this way, or sit a little deeper in my stance, or play a little higher of an arc, or was it more on the mental side?
Um, I mean, definitely mental, but I think the good thing about Coach Toomey is he was teaching it his way, and he didn't like force you to play exactly that way. But if he
Yeah.
saw maybe a flaw in your game that his technique could help you out with, he kind of tried to instill and work on that and focus on that to just be better. If you have bad technique in one area, he was going to fix it for you and do that. So that I liked that aspect of his coaching to me. And yeah, it wasn't a specific thing that he taught, although everything that he taught, I would say I retained probably 90% of it, and used
Nice.
it
Yeah.
on follow years.
Yeah. Awesome. So at what point, I guess it was at some point in high school, you kind of realize, oh, like, hey, I'm pretty good at making saves. I could probably play like at the next level. At what point was that? And then like, how did Navy come into the mix?
Yeah, so I mean that's actually a kind of a loaded question, and some people in the Baltimore area know, but I actually did we Calvert Hall. I think my freshman year they either had five or six freshmen, so it was a loaded class, freshman goalies that is,
Yeah.
and so it was a loaded class, and all the guys were really good, and so, played JV my freshman year, and another freshman, Strider Dixon, he who went on to Brown, and phenomenal goalie. He made varsity as a freshman. And I'm like, oh, geez, this is going to be a tough sled for 4 years. So ended up making varsity my sophomore year, and it was he and I on the team, and he was the incumbent, he was the starter, and then got opportunities a little bit sophomore year that I was like, okay, I could play against these guys. I remember it was probably maybe my second start. It was against St. Paul's, and that's when Michael Watson was a senior. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I get to play against this guy who luckily I played with out in Los Angeles. But and the team played a good game. We lost by maybe 1, maybe 2, but St. Paul's was I think number 1 in the league and maybe number 1 in the country at that time. So I think it was that sophomore year that kind of let me know that I could play with these guys at this level and then follow on. But then Strider and I rotated a bunch, and then junior year Strider beat me out, and senior year as well. So it was tough not playing there, but I think that sophomore year gave me the confidence that I could play at the next level for sure. And then I guess your follow-on question is why Navy, right? Yeah. So back to Charlie Toomey, he was I went to all his camps probably maybe starting in 8th grade and then all throughout high school. He was I think he might have done a year at Loyola when I first started with him, and then he went to Navy to be the assistant for maybe Coach Matthews for a year, and then definitely Coach Meade after that. So that's what gave me the exposure to Navy. He started recruiting me, even though I wasn't playing in high school. And so I thank him still to this day for believing in me. And so he got me interested in Navy, had a couple buddies who were a couple years ahead of me at the Naval Academy. And then that's what kind of started that process to get to Navy.
Interesting. Yeah. A couple youngsters or high school kids sometimes email me that same predicament. Like, hey, I'm a sophomore and I've got this really good goalie who's also a sophomore right ahead of me, who's pretty much going to start, ahead of me. But I also have dreams of playing in college. Like, what should I do? And I'm curious to get your take. My take is, keep working your butt off. Obviously, that's kind of a no-brainer. But then, camps and club are kind of like where you're going to get that exposure. Would you add anything to that or add any more thoughts?
Yeah, you're exactly right, Damon. I mean, that's obviously you got to stay positive. You got to keep a good attitude. Also, like, get a rapport with your other goalies. I know Strider and I, and even the rest of the goalies, we had a great rapport, and I learned stuff in high school from him that I kind of would use, like, technique wise, or how he's commanding the defense. So learn from that other guy, but then also to your point, camps and summer leagues and club. That's a great way to get exposure. And don't go to the same camp as that other goalie. It might be starting.
Mix it up a little bit.
Exactly. Yeah. So, I got to keep a great attitude, keep working hard if that's what your goal is to get to the next level. Because there's so many opportunities to play lacrosse to the next level.
Yeah. And I'm sure, I'll ask you this, but for me, I played club at Cal, and it was still like the best experience of those 4 years. I mean, I love it. Like, just in terms of what I learned on the field, but also all these relationships, all these friendships. I'm sure you're still really good buds with some guys that you played with at Navy, right? I mean, it's an amazing experience.
Exactly. Yeah. It's the lacrosse landscape is just unbelievable right now. Couldn't be happier with the amount of people playing, the amount of colleges playing, and post-collegiate. I love seeing the sport thrive the way it is.
Yeah, it's an awesome time, especially because, like, it's getting bigger and it's growing, but yet, like, the pros, and even like the guys who excelled back in 2000 when you played, like, they're all still very accessible, which is awesome.
Right.
Yeah, like, you could,
yes.
I mean, if I'm doing an NFL podcast, I'm not getting Tom Brady, and yet I'm getting the Tom Brady's of the goalie world, which is just amazing. And that they're so willing to give back to the game because that's part of the culture.
Right. Yeah. You're exactly right. The way it's exploding, like it still has that small sport feel. Everybody, you see people at games or at tournaments, and it's great just to see the camaraderie, yeah, lacrosse is, I think it's going to be like that for a long time.
Yeah, well, hopefully it grows and continues to grow, and gets more and more and more popularity. So you get to Navy, and I imagine, that's just a whole other level of play. I mean, it typically is once you graduate levels, high school to college, college to pros, the speed of the game's a lot faster. But you end up starting your freshman year, right? And end up earning the starting role. I'm curious, how that came to be, and what was the feeling of arriving at Navy as a freshman?
Yeah, I mean, coming in as a freshman, and not starting in high school, I was definitely nervous, just getting there. And there was a senior goalie there, maybe one junior and a couple sophomores, and I'm like, geez, I'm gonna give it my all. But I actually, prior to going to Navy, I spent a year at the Naval Academy Prep School, where I had the opportunity to work with Chris Saran, the '93 Syracuse goalie, and that kind of working under him, he definitely instilled a lot of confidence in me. Took me to another level from high school to college, and he pretty much enabled me to make that transition to the college game. But yeah, then getting to Navy, like I said, I was nervous, but I had a year of pretty decent lacrosse up at the prep school. I mean, just playing against the New England prep schools, those guys up there were pretty good. So I had a good experience up there, and then got down to Navy, and yeah, earned the starting spot. It was funny. Right before our first fall ball tournament, it was a tournament up at Rutgers. A bunch of teams were going up there, and Coach Mead sits me down, and he's like, Mickey, I'm going to start you against Syracuse. I'm like, holy smokes. Like, the Powell, Carcaterra, Cavavit, like all those guys. I'm like, wow, okay. And so it played decent enough to keep the starting spot. So, yeah, and then the rest kind of, I didn't screw up enough freshman year to lose the spot, which was good.
I love it. Working with Chris Saran, I guess same question I asked about Toomey. Was there specific drills you guys were doing? Was there something like really invaluable that he taught you that you picked up from him?
He was what I remember about him is that my positioning, like body position, like foot position and body position in the goal. I recall him having a big impact on me. Like I kind of had I guess not a relaxed stance, but it wasn't as aggressive as a stance as Chris Saran wanted. So I remember him teaching me like a wide base, hands out in front, like always be ready. And I took that down to Navy. So it was a very athletic stance and very aggressive, always loaded up and ready to step out to the ball.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about your style of play. Unfortunately, when I searched YouTube for Mickey Jarboe highlights, there's one video out there from Powell lacrosse, which is awesome, but that's all I could find. So I couldn't find much tape to watch. So how would you describe your style? Like, were you the type of goalie that really liked to come out and kind of challenge shooters on a higher arc, or did you stay back, or how would you describe your playing style?
Yeah, I would say I was a mid arc kind of guy. I wasn't flat, and I wasn't like Matt Russell he had on the podcast a little bit ago. I was a mid arc. I felt that if I was out too far, and I tried it a couple times. Even Coach Finnegan at Navy had me try it. I'm like, Coach, I feel like I'm out of position. And I couldn't get back into position if I did feel like I was out of position. So that's kind of why I kept the mid arc. But I guess my style of play, I think I would categorize it as patient but aggressive. You know, I wanted to see where that shot was going and then react as best I could. I was trying not to guess or bait or anticipate. You know, you do anticipate some, but I wanted to be honest with the shooters and give myself the best opportunity to make that clean save.
Yeah. Another part of your game, and I did have Matt Russell on. He's awesome, awesome guy. Another part of the game that I've heard, well, from him specifically that you had, well, I mean, we're chatting right now in a very different environment, but another part of your game is you're really fiery. Am I right about that? Can you talk a little bit about that?
On the field, yes. Yeah, I don't know. It's just I would get fired up just to get out there on the practice field, get out there on the game field, and you know, my emotions would come out. You know, it's everybody always says you don't want to let the shooters or the offense know that you're frustrated or excited. You know what, you want a calm demeanor. And I was kind of like, well, they know you're upset that you let in a goal. Like, so I would get pissed, and I would, yell sometimes, but it was all just because I was so fired up, so in the moment. I would get upset if I let up a goal, but not so much that I would lose my composure as far as headspace. But if and you can ask one of my Riptide teammates, Greg Bice, this, if I would let you know if you screwed up. I'll tell you if I screwed up, but I'll let you know if you screwed up. And that might not be the right approach, but it was just kind of like I was just so fired up in the moment that it just kind of came out. I think I apologized to most people that I would scold after the game, but yeah, I was definitely an emotional guy out there on the field.
Yeah, Matt Russell told me that Greg Bice has a restraining order against you. Any truth to that?
That might be true.
It's interesting. What if there's a young goalie, like, what am I trying to ask? Like, at what point does that become unhealthy, right? Like, you can have that fire probably up to a certain point, but at what point do you say, like, oh man, I probably should rein it in a little bit if there's a young goalie who's kind of feeling that way, out on the field?
Right. That's a great question. And it's a lot easier said than done, for sure, because you don't know what's going on in that head. I just know for me, like I was upset if I let up a goal, whether it's one goal or 17 goals. They were all the same to me. I don't know. That's a good question, Damon. It's just one that, yes, you can be upset for 5 seconds, 10 seconds, but you have to just bring it right back down and then just totally reset. Go back to your technique. Go to some happy place. Like I said, it's a lot easier said than done. But you definitely need to rein it in. And luckily, I think I did a good job at that. Mm-hmm. So it's a lot easier said than done.
It is. Yeah. I mean, it's so easy to say, like, well, when you give up a goal, be calm. It's
Right.
so easy to say that. And then you give up a goal and the crowds, pre-COVID days, the crowd's going nuts and like people are giving you the business on the sideline. The attackman runs by and says something in your ear. And now, like, just a lot going on. So it's like you said, it's a lot easier said than done.
If you can channel that emotion into, and I think that's kind of what I did. I would get upset, but that would just keep me fired up, not get me more fired up because that might be destructive, but keep me fired up for that next shot or that next opportunity to help out the team. I wasn't thinking about that previous goal, but I would maintain focus and maintain that fire to go do something extra, whether it's go out and get a ground ball or make that another save. That's So I think it kind of helped me stay in that game and stay in that mindset that we gotta no more goals.
Yeah. It's interesting. It's something we talk about quite a bit on the podcast. And a lot of goalies have this like even keel mentality. Like that's how they approach this predicament that we're talking about, is like, I'm not going to get too high, but I'm also not going to get too low. And, you know, that might work for a lot of goalies, and for a lot of goalies it does. But, you know, other goalies are just naturally more fiery. And when you try to like suppress all of these emotions, like the good and the bad, like if you try and suppress all of that, it's just not natural, and you end up not doing as well. So it's a very tough situation.
Yeah, sorry to cut you off, but you're exactly right. And so back to that Greg Bice thing, you know, my first year out in Los Angeles, our first game played Chicago, and we won. Played, I think I played a decent game, and I was like, you know, my normal self. I was fiery. I yelled at Greg a couple times, and I still, to this day, I text him, or I when I talk to him, I'm like, you know, that's how I play. So then he mentioned something after the game. He's like, man, Mickey, you're a little tough on me in the defense. I'm like, oh man, I'm so sorry. Like I meant nothing. Like, so then the next game we go to Boston, and we're playing, and I'm like, okay, just calm down. Don't like do anything. Like, don't say anything bad. And I was kind of that even keel guy. And I had a really bad game, and I'm like, darn it. Like what, I think I know what the reason was, but you know, I don't want to like have the defense like stage a coup on me or against me. And so Greg, actually after the game, he goes, you didn't yell at me once. I go, I know, man. Like what you, I thought you were upset like last week. He goes, no, I need you to yell at me. I need you to yell at me.
That's
I'm
an
like,
awesome
all right.
story. That's an awesome story. So then you yell at Greg Bice for putting that thought in your head and not playing well. Damn it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
So
good.
the rest of the year, I was yelling at Bice.
That's right. Awesome. So, you know, I imagine when you get to Navy, like as a freshman, leader, like being a leader of the team it's kind of tough when you're that young and you don't know the guys and you don't have that experience. I guess two questions, like, were you a leader of the team, or at what point did you start like becoming a leader of that Navy team?
Oh, that's a good question. I wouldn't say that. I mean, I tried to be as good a leader as I could, but you know, being a freshman, and especially being, you know, they call freshmen plebes at the Naval Academy. You're the lowest of the low. You know, like sophomores, juniors, seniors, all kind of give you a bunch of stuff, and you're kind of like the low man on the totem pole. So, you know, being a plebe goalie, it's I wouldn't say it's difficult, but you know, you kind of have that in the back of your head that, hey, you know, I'm just this lowly freshman, you know. But my team, and we had a good senior crew. Andy Ross, world team guy, was on our team, and he was like the leader on the team. But my defense was, we actually had another plebe defenseman starting, and then we had a senior guy starting, and the senior was like, kind of took me under his wing. He's like, look, you gotta command us. You're the guy. And so that kind of helped me out a lot. And but also I think if I was just kind of a sieve and a Swiss cheese, you know, I wouldn't be able to command that defense as well as if you're making saves and doing stuff on the field to kind of back it up. So I think that kind of helped transition into being a leader on the field in that respect.
Yeah, that's a great lesson of leadership, is that you got to be competent.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like in lacrosse business world, like you can't follow a leader who like great guy, great leadership skills, but then like when they go to do something, it's just like, this is horrible. This is not good work. Right. So you've got to be good at what you do.
For sure.
Good point.
Yeah.
When you are at Navy, or even, you know, after that or before that, like what would a goalie training regiment look like for you? Was it a bunch of live shots? Was there a bunch of like specific drills that you're doing? Is it a bunch of wall ball, all the above? What does a goalie training regiment look like for you?
Yeah, for me, I would say it's funny. Like at school, I really did not enjoy working out. And so like that's sort of like working out, like in the weight room and stuff like that. Um, so I focused on a lot of jump rope and footwork drills as far as like physical, preparedness. So a lot of that stuff. Um, Field wise, yeah, definitely a lot of wall ball. Just keeping. I wanted to keep my stick skills as sharp as they could, so I did a ton of wall ball, and yeah, just a ton of shots. And still to this day, like if I'm helping out a goalie, like I think a majority of the time needs to be just seeing tons of shots from all different angles from everywhere else. Yeah, definitely want to focus on the footwork and whatever your style of play might be, whether it's stepping out or stepping sideways, whatever that is, definitely focus on that. But um, definitely seeing a lot of shots is something that I like to do. And I will be doing to get ready for the Ocean City tournament. um, but yeah, Coach Finnegan at Navy, our goalie coach, he would just pepper us with shots. If we were not in a drill or in a scrimmage, we'd go to the field next to us and just see a ton of shots. So um, that's basically what mine looked like, and I urge other goalies to do that as well. Just see as much rubber as you can.
Yeah, definitely. And high quality reps too. That's like the important part about it is sometimes kids don't know what they're doing. So they're like, you're kind of practicing the wrong thing.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, if you can get a coach out there to kind of analyze your technique and just make sure you're getting those high quality reps, that's ideal. Or if not, throw an iPhone on a tripod and kind of record yourself and send it to me or Mickey Jarboe, and we'll take a look at it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and when you say high quality, that's a great point, because oftentimes I see, especially in the younger guys, you see coaches, maybe they're a goalie coach, maybe they're not, but they're shooting from the restraining line, to give these guys shots. And you're like, okay, you'll never see a shot from the restraining line, or very rarely. You want to see
Right.
shots from 10 yards in, 12 yards in, right on the crease. So yeah, quality is definitely the key right there.
Yeah. Yep. 100% agree. In 99 and 2000, you won the, C. Mark Kelly Award Goalie of the Year. Was there something, different about those years, or was it just kind of like the natural progression of putting in that work and kind of where you're at that time?
Yeah, that's a good question. Still to this day, I'm not quite sure. I wasn't sure. I'm not sure if I got that much better. It just kind of catapulted me to that. I think, like you pointed out, I think it was just a natural progression. I know our junior year we had a decent season, made it to the playoffs. So I'm not sure if that's something that helped me kind of get on people's radar or what. But um, I thought I was playing the same, maybe a little bit better than the previous couple of years. Definitely better than my freshman year. But yeah, I'm still not quite sure. I know there were a lot of good goalies my freshman and sophomore year, and there were good goalies their junior and senior as well. But just feel honored and lucky to be chosen for that, for sure.
Yeah. Well, congratulations. I've had a lot of those award winners on the show. I don't think I've ever asked this question. Did they give you like a plaque or a ring or something, or is there
Yeah, it is a plaque. Yeah, it's
plaque?
a
Cool.
C. Mark Kelly plaque. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I have this goal of interviewing as many, Goalie of the Year award winners as I can. And I've had Matt Russell on. The other gentleman I need to get on, Dennis Widekind. Am I saying that right?
Denny Wiedekind. Yeah.
Wiedekind. Okay.
Yeah.
Back in the 60s, right?
Yeah. Yeah. He is the man. He, of course, Navy guy, of course. And then, but he went to Loyola, which is a rival of my high school. So whenever I see him, we always give each other a bunch of stuff. But yeah, he's a great guy.
Awesome. I found this old photo of him back when he was at the Navy. He just looks like a guy that can make saves. I'll send it to you. I'll send it to you after this.
Yeah,
And then I'll ask for
short
his
guy.
email. Is he?
Yeah,
Good.
yeah. I think he might be. He's shorter than Matt Russell. So
Okay. Well, I love it. I have this affinity for short. I'm only 5'8", so I have this affinity
yeah,
for short goalies. And
right.
anytime a goalie that's short, man, I just love chatting with those. I chatted with AJ Barretto, 4-year Army starter.
Yep. Yeah,
He's at 5. He's at 5. He's shorter than me. So we had a blast talking about what shorter goalies can do, like where we can excel and kind of use our natural quickness and speed out of the cage.
Yeah, for sure.
Which is an interesting question. Were you a big like out of the crease kind of guy? Like, there's a ground ball outside the crease. Were you going out to get it, or did you kind of hang back?
So yeah, I was typically like, if there's an opportunity for me to get a ground ball, I was definitely going to go for it. I tried to calculate the risks, but yeah, that was something that Coach Finnegan was adamant about. He's like, you got to be active to go help the team get a possession. Get that ground ball to get a possession. So definitely, I would go out and help the team in that way, whether it's a ground ball or maybe make a little check or something like that. But like a lot of goalies, or not a lot of goalies, but some goalies are very offensive minded. Like they'll take it up past midfield, and that definitely was not my style. I would rather get it to the guys who with the short stick and guys who are faster than me to be able to get that ball up and out to the offense.
Got it. Cool. So after the Naval Academy, I mean, you've got, your naval service and thank you very much for your service, by the way.
All right. Thank you for your support.
Yeah, appreciate it. And you go and fly helicopters in the Navy.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Curious if there's anything about, your lacrosse goalie experience that helped you in that role.
Definitely hand-eye coordination, for sure. Because I mean, you're basically working with 3 axes on flying the helicopter. So hand-eye for sure. Being a leader in the helicopter. I mean, because you're flying with another pilot. Could be a junior pilot, could be a senior pilot, and then you have people in the back who are doing jobs as well. So you have to kind of know the situation of what you're doing, whether it's something extremely hard or something easy. You still have to know your surroundings and be able to delegate tasks in the helicopter. So kind of learning how to be a leader on the field definitely transition into being a leader in the helicopter, and then leading men in my squadrons as well.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I imagine there'd be a lot of similarities, and that was kind of what I was thinking of too. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And then, so did you start playing professional lacrosse like while stationed in the Navy, or how did the professional lacrosse come to be?
Yeah. So I was in my operational squadron was in Jacksonville, Florida. So I was down there playing club with a bunch of guys down there. And then I got stationed out in San Diego back in 2007. And Los Angeles had a team. I think they started in 06. And one of my good buddies, Sean Donnelly, who's a class of '92, he's a defenseman. He was on that team, and he called me up one time. He's like, "So you're in San Diego, huh?" He's like, "You want to play with Riptide?" I go, "Sure." I haven't played goalie in a while because I was actually playing midfield in Jacksonville. So I hadn't stepped in the cage probably in like a couple years. So I was like, "Yeah, sure. I'm gonna have to start working out and getting some shots and stuff like that." So the general manager of the team, GW Mix, he emailed me and called me. He's like, "Hey, we have this open tryout. Do you want to come up and try out?" I'm like, "Well, sure." So they had an open tryout. Played halfway decent, and they invited me to the training camp for the Riptide, and yeah, the rest was history. Made the team, and then was able to play some up there.
Just like riding a bike, huh?
Well, Not so much. I
Exactly.
mean, gosh, the last time I'd seen quality shots was in 2000. So going up there and shoot, those guys, of course, uh, played with Watson again, with Terry Reardon, with a couple Navy guys, and the speed was just exponentially faster. And
Yeah.
it's something I had to get my bearings about me, but it kind of did. My progress did accelerate faster than I thought it was going to, which was a good thing. But yeah, it was that was a fun experience up there for sure.
Yeah. That's what I kind of alluded to at the beginning of our chat here is you had that layoff and then you get back and start playing at the top level. And it sounds like you're going to do it again. So, to get ready for you, it's shots, it's jump rope. I mean, what else are you doing to get ready?
Yeah, so I do work out a bunch, stay in decent enough shape. So that's I actually like kind of I alluded to earlier. I didn't like working out much at school, but now I actually do enjoy working out. So I'm in halfway decent shape now. But yeah, it'll be more jump rope, and then get some of my local buddies here to just get some shots on me and see if I still have it. I definitely need to work on my flexibility right now. That's something that's
Mm,
lacking at the moment, but
yeah.
um, we'll get there. We still have a couple months. It's in August is the tournament, so
Okay. Yeah.
it'll be
Yeah.
good.
I turned 40 and when you get up there in your 40s, the body starts tightening up. So that's one of the
Yes,
huge things that you gotta, in addition to staying in shape, you look great, by the way,
so
looks
do
like,
you. Yeah, thanks.
yeah. Hey, us lacrosse goalies, we stay young.
Yeah, exactly.
Um,
And you should see Russ now. He's still in great shape too.
yeah.
He's
Oh
not
yeah.
he's not 40 yet. He's still in his 30s, but he's keeping himself in great shape too.
Yeah. Well, awesome. Awesome. Um, let's see. With all this experience you have right now, Mickey, if you could go back to give the younger Mickey Jarboe some goalie advice, what would you say to your younger self?
Oh wow. I would probably say, especially in my time in high school where I didn't play as much as I wanted to, or if at all, just to be patient. That patient and keep working your craft. I think as long as you do that, you will have the opportunity to play at the next level and excel. So just be patient and keep working hard, and and I'm sure good things will come to all those young guys who might be in the same position that I was.
Yeah, it's really good advice. Really good
Yeah.
advice. Good advice when comes to making saves too. Be
Yes.
patient. Be patient.
Yeah. Saves are going to come. You know, you
Hmm.
might let up the first three shots, but there are going to be some shots that you're going to save later in the game.
Yeah. When you think about your career, Navy pros, was there a time like or an extended period where you went through a slump where you just kind of weren't seeing the ball? And if so, like, what do you do to get out of that?
Yeah. I do recall in college, I forget if it was, might have been sophomore year. I was just kind of in that slump. You know, I wasn't I was seeing the ball. I just wasn't reacting well enough to it. And so letting in a lot of goals. And Coach Finnegan, to rein me in, he was like, do something else for the team. If you're not making shots or if you're not making saves, go get a ground ball. Make a perfect clearing pass. Command the defense better. There's so many things that us as goalies, you know, that we can do to help the team. Obviously, our primary job is to stop shots, but there's a lot of other things that you can do, and I kind of took that to heart because it was in practice that he told me, but it was after a couple bad games or mediocre games at best. He told me, and I was like, "Man, you are right, coach." So even that practice, picked up a couple ground balls, had a good clearing game, and that kind of helped me um, during that time. And then I think it might have been in my second year at Los Angeles. I wasn't playing well at all. And Coach Tucker called me. He goes, "Hey, Mickey, like, if I hate to do this to you, but we need a good game out of you this game, or else we might have to make a change." I hate to say that, but we do. So in that moment, I kind of reverted back to, and I kind of wasn't doing it as much, but pregame rituals back in college, I would basically put in my mind like the starting face off, and then just different situations where the offense would shoot on me and I would make the perfect step to the ball, the perfect save. Um, and I would do that for like 10 minutes before each game. So I started doing that again. And I don't know if that was the reason, or I just, but that definitely helped me out because, I was kind of getting back in the mindset of, hey, start making perfect moves to the ball, make saves. And so being in that mindset, I think helped me out of that situation.
Yeah, visualization is something I preach like as much as I can. Like, it's real. It's real. Like,
Yes.
it's weird. Like, I've worked with a lot of sports psychologists, well, not a lot, two sports psychologists, and like, one guy was telling me that the mind cannot like differentiate between like what's happening in real life and like what you're thinking in your head. So like almost thinking about these reps and like having perfect form in your visualization, it's
Mm-hmm.
almost as good as like being out there on the field. It's really powerful stuff.
Right. Yep. And that's exactly right. That's what I try to tell young goalies too. Don't, like, when you're at home, like playing video games or something, just take a couple minutes away from it and visualize like your previous practice. If you missed a shot, visualize that exact shot, except this time you're making the perfect save, offside high, and
Yeah.
clear the ball. So that's something that has helped me out in the past.
Yep. Awesome.
100%.
Um, you then, I don't know about the timeline of events, but you went back to Navy and kind of coached their goalies, yeah, or the
Yeah,
defense. Could you
yeah,
tell us about that?
it was I was a volunteer goalie coach for 4 or 5 years, and that was so much fun, valuable experience. It was it was tons of fun. Like, relationship building with those guys, not just the goalies, but the players. Um, it was a great experience, and one that I'll remember for a long time.
Yeah.
For
What's
sure.
sort of your philosophy with coaching goalies? Like, I guess, I usually ask the question like, you got a youth goalie and they're a raw ball of clay, and kind of how do you mold them into this, elite goalie? But when you get to Navy, they're probably not raw balls of clay. Like, they're
Right.
pretty
Yeah.
good at that point. But I'm
Yeah.
curious, what's your style of coaching?
I would say, I would, I know how I like to play, and like you just alluded to, like those goalies who are in college, they're already pretty much set in their ways and their techniques and stuff like that. And that's something that I took to heart. So I wouldn't try to change them, you know, technique wise. If there's something, a glaring issue, that I felt was hindering them from getting to the next level, then I would point that out. But I would try to just work within their skill set and their technique to just try to polish that clay to make it nice and shiny.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like, I do recall, one of the goalies, he started for I think 3 years. Um, All American out of Chaminade, John Connors. Um, he was a hell of a goalie. Reactions were just phenomenal. But I remember when I first shot on him, he had this strange stick position, whereas more of the vertical style, instead of like kind of like just you know um, an even hand position, both hands were like above each other, and I was
Mm-hmm.
like, Yeah, and that's something that I always see as odd, only because almost like physics, in order to get that offside save, you don't have that lower hand to help snap that stick across. And
Hmm.
so I asked him to kind of change that up, and he goes, "This feels really odd." And I'm like, "Well, it's going to, because you've probably been doing this for 5, 6 years." And then so we just kept on focusing on that, like off the side. Like if he had to go into a drill or a scrimmage or something, he would stay in his previous thing, but we would just constantly work on it. And finally I kind of explained my philosophy on that, and he's like, that makes perfect sense, and I'm going to try it. So he tried it, and he's like, you know what, I don't think I'm ever going to go back. Like that really helps out. So but yeah, I would try to just stay in there already ingrained techniques. But if I saw something that might be glaring, then try to fix that.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Was that during his career, John Connor's career? Like we watch earlier tape of his, would we see like kind of one style and then a little bit of a shift, or when did that
Maybe if you saw him in high school,
in high school?
because I
Okay.
think we started doing that as a freshman, and then I think he started his sophomore year after that. So I'm pretty sure you should see that.
Got it. Got it.
Don't quote
Yeah,
me.
I
Don't
won't.
quote.
I won't. Don't worry. This is
Yeah.
we got thousands of listeners. Someone
Right.
might quote you, but
Yeah, exactly.
anyway.
He doesn't know
um,
what he's talking about.
that's right. Going back to that, what you just mentioned. So I went to this camp one time. I think it was like my sophomore year. I went to this camp, and the coach there said something that like has always really resonated with me. It's like we got like a 6x6 goal, right? And you know, every part of the goal is equally valuable. Doesn't matter if they score
Mhm.
top left, doesn't matter if they score lower right. Every part of the goal counts as a goal. So we have to protect the entire goal.
Mhm.
And we make saves ultimately like with our top hand. Like, yeah, there's like, the bottom hand kind of helps, but ultimately your top hand gets to the ball. So I need to be equally as efficient as going to like all areas of the goal with my top hand. And if I have my stick, like sometimes I see guys like have it way off to the side here. You're just not setting yourself up to be equally as efficient to go to all parts of the goal. So that's always been my philosophy.
Amen. Amen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. Yeah, I'm more of like a neutral grip kind of guy.
Hmm.
Kind of like hip width, and then yeah, basically just very very symmetrical in that hand position and versus your body. If that
Hmm.
makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. Love it. Did you work with those Navy goalies on the mental game? And if so, like, what are some of the things you're talking about? What are some of the lessons you're giving them?
Um, to some that needed it, some were already, you know, very mentally strong, and then others would, I wasn't quite sure what was going on in their head. Um, so most of the time, it was just having conversations with them. It wasn't like I'm by no means a psychiatrist, psychologist,
Hmm.
but it was mostly just seeing what they were thinking about, whether it was on the field or off. Obviously, in relation to lacrosse. Um, so I would say that was it. Just seeing where they're at, seeing where I might be able to give some advice. So how they can kind of think differently or more positive. Um, but yeah, it was more in a conversation um, than giving them actual um, medical advice, if you will.
Right. Right. Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's something that a lot of youth goalies, the mental game, it's all about the mental game, and it's tough because, you're like, well, how do I get confidence when I'm just starting out and like, I don't know anything. So it's something I have been working with and just improving my own mental game as well. And it's so interesting. One of the main tips I have is like, you know, is to help others, coach others.
Sure.
It's
Sure.
crazy. Like
Yep.
in coaching lacrosse goalies, I myself have become a much better goalie. Like in coaching others in the mental game, I myself have become a much like mentally stronger person. So that's like was one huge takeaway for me that I'll share.
Yeah, that's impressive. Yeah. No, I totally agree with you, Damon. That's yeah, definitely having those deeper conversations with those guys. Definitely, I began to reflect more on my attitude. You know, of course, I wasn't playing, but definitely affected me in a much more positive light, for sure.
Yeah. Do you think there's anything specific about the way that, Navy runs its program that is like just, a little bit better than the way other programs do it?
Of course, I am biased, but I think especially when I was playing and when Matt was playing, we were lucky enough to have a dedicated goalie coach. And that's something that was not every team had. I know they had guys that would be tapped to be, hey, you're the goalie coach, whether he's the defensive coordinator that's kind of helping out the goalies or what. That's something that was that we were lucky enough to have in Coach Finnegan. That his sole purpose was just to prepare us for practice and games, and that's something that I thought was different. I'd look on the sidelines of other teams and like, they don't have a goalie coach? What's going on? Like, I thought everybody did. So that was something that I benefited a lot from. And then even when I was helping out, I'd like to think that I helped out those goalies, but I still didn't see too many goalie coaches out there, and still to this day, Rob Camposa is the volunteer goalie coach there. So it's just a dedicated body to always be with the goalies. Yeah, get him on. He's
I know. I'm jotting down some
Brook
names
goalie.
here.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
All right, perfect. And one thing that Matt Russell said too is obviously the service academies attract like a certain style of player. I feel like with that, it's a lot of like that team player, who's willing to sacrifice for the team, very structured, so I feel like that's an interesting element to all of the service academies, not just Navy in particular.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, I would say, save for last year, Navy had the and last year Navy had the I think it might have been the top one or two recruiting classes in the country. They might get one or two blue chips, but it's never a full class like a Carolina or Duke, Syracuse, Maryland. So the team heavily relies on those glue guys, the guys that are going to go out there and put their head right into the pile and fight for every ground ball. So you do have some guys that are phenomenal players, but a majority of that team is that guy who, whether they're a second line midi or a practice squad guy, they are hard nosed and they're going to get the job done, whether it's in practice, scouting for Saturday's game. Yeah, it's definitely a different type of person. I'm sure every team has them, but and like I said, I'm biased, but I feel like the service academies definitely invoke that into people, and they're going to recruit that type of player.
Makes sense.
For sure.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, this has been a ton of fun, Mickey. I really thank you. I got a few more questions for you. The sweats with the rolled up shin. I love that look. That's how I played. Where did you learn that, and why do you go with that look?
So I wore sweats probably ever since I started playing, and I think I must have been in 6th grade, and my dad took me to the finals. It was '89, the legendary game, Syracuse versus Hopkins, and I saw Kesnick was wearing sweats. He didn't necessarily have them rolled up, I don't think, but it was a hot Memorial Day, and I'm like, Dad, he's wearing sweats too. So I was like, So I just kept on wearing sweats. And then I slowly but surely see a lot of guys. I know Chris Saran liked to tape his sweats up there. I didn't actually tape them. I just rolled them up and hope they didn't fall past my skinny calves. But and that kind of continued into the prep school, into school. And funny story, I think it was my sophomore year. We go down to North Carolina and play those guys, and it was like late February, early March, but it was like hot. It was hot down there. I'm like, you know what? It might be shorts weather. I'm wearing shorts. Well, Damon, I got lit up like nobody's business. And I'm like, it's definitely the sweats. I need the sweats back. So after that game, I'm like, now I'm wearing sweats from here on out.
Yeah, because you feel good. You look good, you feel good, and just it gives you this sense of confidence.
Yeah, exactly.
I love it. I put one revolution of athletic tape just to make sure they didn't fall down.
Now, did you go thick tape, or did you split it in half? And
just thick tape, thick tape. But then like the sweats are really baggy, because I felt like I was gonna get at least 1, 2, 3 extra saves by having all that bagginess.
Yeah.
So like I would do a revolution of tape, but then like the sweats would kind of fall down past the tape, so you couldn't really see it.
Right. Good.
All right. What about goalie gear? Are you still rocking the old school gear? Are you using an Eclipse 2, or what are you using these days?
No, I've upgraded from the Goalie Master in college, and
okay.
Yeah. Then I used an Eclipse in. Actually, I used an Eclipse my senior year in college. That was when I think it might have came out my junior year, but then I switched to the Eclipse my senior year. So I had a bunch of those laying around. So then once I went to play for the Riptide, I kept that, but then I guess it was a Warrior and Brine sponsorship with the MLL.
Yeah.
So GW was like, dude, you cannot use this SDX stick in games. I'm like, well, I don't have any other sticks. He's like, all right, well, what stick do you want? I'm like, I don't know. I guess like the Brine Eraser. I'm like, so then they came in, and I used that for 2 years, and I actually really like that. That's what I still have. And so I just like the way it feels in my hands. 12 diamond mesh, no V. I like to make my own pocket without the V. So I make a nice channel in there, but without the V. I just don't like the way that feels coming out of the stick. But
do you have shooters in there?
No shooters. Yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
just straight across.
3 shooters, 3 like hockey shooters, and then I use 1 nylon at the top to make sure, because I don't like it when it hits off the plastic. I want it to come straight off the laces. So that's what that's how I did it in LA, and that's how I'm still doing it. Yeah, have you seen those guys that they don't have any shooting strings?
It's called the Ghost Pocket. I have. Yeah.
Have you used one yet?
No, I haven't.
I'm like,
I don't feel like I've had a stick strung up well enough, because I had a really good stringer on the podcast. Like the guy is just, he does a lot of the PLL guy stuff, and Mr. Wonderful is his name, Tommy.
Okay.
Anyway, awesome stringer. And we talked about it, and he said like if you string the pocket like well enough, like it will hold and just release perfectly without those shooters. But
really?
No, I've never used it.
Yeah.
I also think that like there's this, I also love V's, by the way. So maybe we're different in that. Like there's this really slow motion clip that from coming out of the PLL where like Kincannon makes this save, and you can see the ball like hit his pocket, and then it's super slow mo, right? So it starts traveling up the pocket, and then you could see like it just gets gripped by the V. Like the V kind of like catches it, and then like kind of keeps it right where he can just grab it. It's just really cool clip. Anyway, based on that, I love these.
Right. I don't see a V in the sticks behind you.
No, I don't have it.
Right.
But then again, I don't really play anymore. So I'm down here in Argentina, and I'm just kind of like trying to start programs. And that's one thing I really miss about living abroad is being able to coach live and being around all that lacrosse. But so it goes. So it goes. What we do have is live chats about goalie, which I really enjoy.
There you go. There you go.
So, well, awesome, Mickey. Thank you so much for coming on. This was tons of fun. I really appreciate it. If folks want to get a hold of you, are you on any of those social medias? How does that work?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram and Twitter. I'm not a totally active poster, but I definitely like following a lot of the guys, getting all my lacrosse information from those channels. So
Yeah.
yeah, definitely.
What's
Definitely those
the
two.
names?
Mickey Jarbs on both.
Got it. Cool. Well, I'll link up to that. Are you do you continue to watch Navy lacrosse? Have you been watching Spencer Reese this year?
Oh my gosh, he had a phenomenal season, and it was so impressive the way he handled. I mean, himself. And from what I heard, he didn't play much in high school, and of course, this was his first starting gig at Navy, and my gosh, he was phenomenal.
Yeah.
It
I
was
love watching. Big guy. I think he's like 6'3" or 6'4". And then, I mean, he would come out and make saves at the top of the crease. It was just really interesting. Like, you don't see that. I mean, the last time I saw that was like a Dylan Ward type of big body, but also coming out and like making yourself as big as you can in the eyes of the shooter, which is, I think, a really cool style.
Yeah. And he made a lot of clean saves. It was impressive. Of course, he has that the ghost mash or whatever. He doesn't have
the
any
ghost pocket.
either.
He does. That's right. Yeah.
I'm like, Spencer. Of course, I don't think I've met him in person, but next time when I do meet him, I'll be like, let me see that stick. Let me see what that thing's all about.
Talk about that.
Yeah, for sure. No, yeah, they had a good season. Wish they could have gone a little bit further, but happy to see they beat Army.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Mickey, thank you so much for coming on, and we'll be in touch.
Yeah, Damon, thank you very much. It was a pleasure.